On this episode of Still Loading, Faithful Dungeons and Dragons. Hello everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Still Loading. We are continuing the summer of PlayStation 2. I am your host, Josh Koval, the host of Still Loading. And with me today to discuss the next game in this summer PS2 series, I have two of my best childhood friends, Micah.
Hi.
And Jamie.
Hey.
You may remember Jamie from the Final Fantasy 6/3 episode almost like 2-3 years ago now. That's still one of the more popular episodes.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Game.
It's a good game, yeah.
So, as with all my guests, I always like to ask, since it is the summer of PS2, what got you into the PlayStation 2? What's some of your earliest memories with the PlayStation 2? And then we'll go into the game we're going to talk about today.
So PS2 was one of the first systems or one of the last systems I got. I got the system and 5 games right away. I had all the games I wanted to play. First one though was Final Fantasy X. It's still to this day one of my favorite games in the world, and I still play it to this day. I love it. It's just...
Did you get the HD remake for PS3?
I did, and I beat the heck out of that one too.
I still remember when... So all of us, we used to be part of like this friend group that we called Pizza Tuesday.
Oh, friends.
Right.
That was awesome.
And there is one night, I still remember this, we walked around the entirety of our town at like fucking 3 a.m. It was like from midnight to like 4 a.m.
Was that to go to the diner?
No, because this was all in. It wasn't anywhere near a diner.
That was another long night walk.
It was, and we spent at least a solid hour of it gushing about Final Fantasy X and 6 and 7. Well, not 6. Sorry, 7, 8, and 9 as well, but mainly 10. Because I think, no, I hadn't just played it. I beat it a while before that, but. I mean, that's been almost 10 years now. That's crazy to think about. It's been a while. So, Jamie, what's one of your earliest memories?
My earliest memories with the PS2 was a solo game, Shadows of Memory. It was a terrible time-traveling game in which you had to unmask your own killer, and it was supposed to boast multiple endings. Every time I played it through, it was the same ending. It was a terrible game.
Did you make the same decisions every time?
Probably, because there was hardly any other decisions. You had to look around the map for new clues and stuff, and it was just an open walking around streets with nothing happening. It was terrible.
The game wasn't interesting enough to
warrant. No, it was terrible.
Actually.
But I played it and I beat it, and it counts. But Shattered Soldier, Contra, Shattered Soldier, that's probably one of the best PS2 games.
What a time sink.
What a time sink. It's a 2-player game. Mike and I played it, and I never beat it with him. He was...
Hey. Just because you had to carry me the whole time doesn't mean it wasn't fun.
The entire time. I only recently beat it about a year ago, playing it on
By
single
yourself?
player, by myself,
Absolutely.
learning how to, because nobody would want to play it. Mike didn't want to play with me anymore.
That's
fine.
the game sucks.
It was a great game. It's a fantastic game. But that game we played for probably a good year or two, memorizing every level, every move, and then we just quit.
It's not a game you can go into and just explore. It's a game you have to go in methodically and just memorize. This guy goes here, okay, go here, go this, go there, go.
It's like
It sounds
map
awful.
it out.
Why would you like that?
I know, right?
I'm sitting here with a wall of your Nintendo and Super Nintendo games that require you to do that in every game, and that's what was so great about it. You got to memorize
not
the level.
Everyone.
Not every game.
Not everyone.
No, not everyone. But you had to memorize the level. You had to know what you were doing. That was great.
So I've gathered you both today to talk about Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. That is the first game in the Baldur's Gate, or not the Baldur's Gate series. The original Baldur's Gate was for PC, I believe, correct?
Yeah, it was like a really, really old
It was like
strategy kind of thing.
Point click, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like the original Baldur's Gate, this is very much authentic to Dungeons and Dragons. Hence why the little tagline in the beginning. It's a very very authentic. It's as authentic
I believe it was
as you
made
could.
in congregation with Dungeons and Dragons to make it as accurate as possible.
Well, yeah, because
it's a Wizard of the Coast.
It's Wizards of the Coast,
yeah.
the people who run it. So the game was released in North America on December 4th, 2001 for the PlayStation and 2. PlayStation and 2. I don't know why I said it that way. For the PlayStation 2. It was released also on the Xbox and the GameCube, and actually probably the weirdest one on here, the Game Boy Advance.
Really?
There was
Yeah,
a port of it for the Game Boy Advance.
I had no idea.
That was released in 2004.
That's terrible, but that's all right. We played it on the best console, so
Yes, and it was developed by Snowblind Studios, published by Black Isle Studios, and I think Black Isle did most of the I think they did the original Baldur's Gate. I think they developed
did too,
it at
yeah.
least. The doesn't have. I don't see the director on here, but the lead designers. Not that these names. I don't know any of these guys, but I always think it's good to give credit where credit's due. Chris Avallone, Urza Dreisbach, and Ryan Geithman. I hope I pronounced any of those correctly. But yeah, so Baldur's Gate. This game was such a... It's a good hack and slash, but it's not like God of War hack and slash. It's a dungeon crawler, very much in the Diablo 2 vein, I would say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a mindless game. You don't really have to think about it too much. You just go through and just go.
After watching you guys play,
so it's a mindless game because you always died a lot. And you watched me play. So.
All right, it worked for me.
I played this through on easy, and I was very proud of myself because all the websites say it's like a 13-hour game. I beat it in like 6. So I was
On
like,
easy.
shut up.
Let's highlight that.
I said it was on easy. I think I did. If
You
not,
did.
it was
Just
on
letting
easy.
you know.
Fuck you guys. No, but so even so, like I wasn't expecting it to beat it that much quicker, even on easy. But easy's laughable. It's so easy. But you were saying how normal and the hard difficulty, like normal, escalates so much
It
more.
scales quite a bit. Yeah, just with even just normal, you're very likely to die. I mean, yes, I was carried a little bit by Jamie, but still, it's a harder game than you think
It is very hard. And that's why 2-player is so good on it too. Like you can play.
You can
the
play
game
up to
one player.
4, right?
No, it's only 2-player because I have 3 characters for you to select.
Well, could you play up to 3?
I think
No.
I think you could do 3 if you had the adapter. It would
The,
let you
like the
do 3.
multi-tap? I don't know. I don't have a multi-tap.
I thought it was just 2, but they have 3 characters, and really, I mean, I don't know if it's the real meta, but if you ask me, there's the dwarf fighter, straight physical, that
Most useful.
right? Most useful. And that's probably what that's not what you'll probably play in single player. What you'll probably play in single player is the human ranger because he has melee and range distance.
Oh, I played the human fighter, but also that was on easy.
That's
mind you.
true. I mean, you can do the fighter too. You just get swarmed real fast in single
Oh my
player.
god.
Yeah, you gotta swing hard.
And then the last one is like the
Fast.
mage, your typical mage, glass cannon, which you don't play in single player. I mean, of course you can force
You
your
can
way.
if you want, but
It's a lot
if
of
you
it's
don't
a
like
lot
yourself.
of kiting. You have to attack
yeah.
and attack and run, attack. And
Oh, yeah, you
But
can
don't,
beat
but
a
only
game
play
like
her if
that.
you don't really like yourself.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I think what you're supposed to do is the human ranger single player get melee, get distance, and then for 2-player you get the heavy tank dwarf, and then you get somebody as like the heavy range.
There's the range, yeah.
And then you can do either the ranger or the mage. We skipped the mage. That's too much work.
Have you guys tried the mage at all? I actually did not try it. So
We tried her, I think, at first,
Yeah.
but for one, she's so mana reliant. You just
Tried
need to
her,
just
I
like
barely
have,
know
have
her.
an IV of mana potions going in.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
And it's like every mage, and especially in this one, it's
Yeah.
like the wind blows at you and you fall over.
Yeah,
Now, what's cool about this game is that, like I said, it's very authentic to Dungeons and Dragons. Where when you get new weapons and you get new things, it feels very much like you're playing D&D. I believe it was based off version 3.0. This game was based off of D&D version 3.0.
Probably it has like a
And-
feat system to it where you dump your points as like kind of like feats that can increase. Yeah.
And every 4 or 5 levels, you can pick a stat to upgrade, whether it's your strength, dexterity,
yeah, which
intelligence,
is right
wisdom.
in line with 3.5 D&D.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool to see how much you could customize your character. Like when I played on the easy one, you could, one of my favorite abilities was the ability to increase your attack rate. And so by the end of it, even though I was like had a bastard sword, so you had to hold, like, not dual wield it, you had to use both hands, you couldn't like just one arm that thing. He was swinging so fucking fast. It was a joke. It just mowed over everything. It was great.
Absolutely. We've kind of learned that in that game there's kind of a set path you have to take almost, or you're just not going to win on normal or hard. If you deviate from that, you're just in trouble.
Really? What what was
It's
your
attack speed that you had.
That's the
pretty much.
one you have to really just go for.
Yeah,
Well,
just
makes
just
sense.
Well, our
hit things
combo-
harder and faster.
Our combo
yeah, the
worked
combo
where
worked
I just
well
had a
too.
shield, and the shield in that game just blocks every hit as long as
So
it's
you
straightforward.
focused on a lot on like the health upgrades, because I think there's one
Yeah.
that increases your strength, that helps, not your strength, but your
health regen is a
your
big
health
one, too.
regen, your total health, and there's also one which isn't helpful in combat, but it is helpful for just carrying shit. That increases your weight capacity.
No,
how
that
much you can
becomes
carry.
more. Well, it's not super critical.
I
Because
just
you
sell
can
shit
come
because you
go
can
and come
recall
and
back to
go.
town.
Yeah,
And like it said that I thought they give you these recall potions, but I never used them.
No, I don't think we used them a couple times when we just needed to get out of there, but it wasn't really a big part of the game.
Yeah, the game throws a ton of them at you in the first act. The second act, you start kind of using them.
Like I would recall all the time, and it wouldn't use up one of the recall potions.
Oh,
no, maybe that's easy. But it definitely used it in normal.
Fuck you guys.
Yeah, it definitely took it off in easy and normal.
Yeah, those things are a nice little penny in the beginning of the game too. I think like I don't know if it's 100 gold a pop. No, and you can sell them for.
Oh, were they more? Okay, penny. Yeah.
Because they're
arrows actually sell for a lot. Too.
I need those. Don't sell them.
Yeah, exactly.
On single player, on easy mode.
That's the only reason you carry capacity. For
Listen, as soon as the ranger goes melee, it's over. I might as well just lay over and die.
Yeah, well, that's the strategy we had. I go front line with sword and board, and then block and delay, and then he sends back there with explosive arrows, and it works in 2-player. It's great. It's a great strategy.
Oh yeah, explosive.
You can still lose very easy, but
as we did,
a
lot,
many times.
Yeah.
And you also get different abilities. I would assume it changes from class to class, but as a fighter, I noticed you got 3 like unique kind of attack abilities, like Bull Rush, as well as there was a Whirlwind ability, which didn't seem all that useful to me.
No.
And there was another one that was like a Thunder Stomp type of thing. It seemed like you had it. It was dumb because like the Bull Rush you can use no matter what, but the other abilities, like the spin attack or the weird, like I think it was like a hammer slam type of thing, like you would like almost like a Thor's hammer, you would jump up and slam it down, but you could only use it with specifically a hammer. And then the whirlwind thing you could specifically only use with a hammer or an axe, so your sword was useless at that point.
Yeah,
and
really.
It was kind of dumb. It's kind of dumb to have those abilities that are weapon specific instead of just class specific.
It's actually not terrible because the merchant system works really well, where they have all those weapons there. It's like the +1s, the +2, so it's easy to get. The big problem there is that as a fighter, because that's what I rolled, I don't do 2 hands because you have to start timing your blocks. Where the shield you can just hold up against numerous enemies, especially ranged enemies. You just hold your shield up. But I never use 2 hands weapons because that's just...
Oh, it makes sense for your guys' strategy. It wouldn't work at all.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of parts in the game where they just rain darts on you in like Act 3.
The poison dart things are so fun.
Oh, yeah, you just have to have a shield just to block. And then move forward an inch.
You can't see where they're coming from. You have no idea because the camera's...
Even when it wasn't the poison darts, even just the regular archers were impossible to see where they're coming from. I remember specifically, I think it's in Act 1, where it's just... You go into it and you just see a wall of arrows shooting at you. And when you walk up, they're in a...
That's the first
It's not
spot.
like you can't... The way you have to fight them is that they will always be shooting at you in a line. Yep. It's not like you can go somewhere and take a few out and hide. You're wide open the entire time.
So that was the first major fight in the game. And it actually was really cool because it taught you how to use your environment. Because if I remember right, there was a box barrier. And you could actually jump up and push the boxes off the barrier, and you could push the box forward to kind of block those arrows. And we tried doing that where we'd follow through. Like, I'd push it, Mike would stand behind me, but like, it was a tight shield.
They take out the boxes eventually, so you just got to make a break for it at one point.
Yeah, but you could use it temporarily to like...
Yeah, you could push it forward.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't, once again, play it on easy. Didn't have to use any of the environmental stuff that helps you. I did use those ignite barrels. There are these cool explosive barrels that you can get, or you don't get. They're just lying around the dungeons everywhere. And I didn't know... Because when you're just breaking shit, you don't notice them at first, and so you swing into them, and they explode, and they kill you.
Of course.
Yep, I did that a lot.
Yeah. I did that a lot.
Too many times.
But there's a lot of cool environmental things, like you were saying. I didn't even think about using the boxes to do that because I'm like, okay, why are these here? Let me just jump over them. Instead of... When I thought that, why are these here? Maybe I should have really tried to figure out why they were actually there instead of being like, fuck this. I just ran over it.
I think that's the fun part of D&D also, because you can, in actual D&D, the tabletop game, you can use whatever you want around you, and they tried to make that faithful to the game.
Or...
I didn't even
bull rush your way through.
Always bull rush.
I didn't even think about this. You guys were the perfect guest for this because Jamie here is the DM for whenever I usually play, or for when Mike and I usually play D&D. I tried DMing once and I didn't really enjoy it.
It's not that much fun. I like to play.
No, somebody has to do it.
But you actually enjoy it, right?
I do. I've been doing it for like,
10 years, 15 years?
Yeah, somewhere in between there. It's crazy.
It's
I've only actually played the game twice now. But yeah, I've DM'd the entire time. Only played twice. It's crazy. So if any of you guys want to, try again,
Yeah, I'd be down always.
Nah, I'll get around to it. Yeah, you're right though, because especially when our group plays D&D, we fucking do the dumbest shit. I
We're
feel like
worst.
that's the. I remember. So I was at a convention with one of our friends, and we were talking about old D&D stories, and I still remember when we were playing the Sunless Citadel,
Classic.
and the classic 3.5 campaign, and who's the dude? Meebo.
Yep.
Meepo.
We always
Is that
kill.
actually
Yep.
his name?
Meepo. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you just gave him that
Nope.
name.
That was it. It's Meepo.
So it's his. Is he a goblin or is he a?
He's a kobold.
He's a kobold,
Yep.
but he's a friendly kobold.
Yeah, he's the first NPC you encounter, in
And
the
we
game.
kill him every
And
time.
we
almost every time. Unless
because
there's
we
somebody
forget
with-
about him.
Yep.
Yeah, unless there's somebody with a conscious. On the
We
team
go
that's
well. We
playing for
go
the first
through
time.
the first time we ever played it. I didn't know. That was the first time playing. The first time we ever played it, we walk into this room. He gets up and starts screaming at us. We're like, "Oh, it's hostile!" and killed it. And we found out later.
It's crying at you.
You said screaming.
It's crying at you.
He was not. When you described it, he was not crying.
And that's how
He
we
was
always break
yelling at us.
storylines.
That's fine. I think I've lost at least 2 or 3 parties to that room before, where everybody wants to kill him. I had one. I played with my nephew and my brother-in-law once. There's the 2 of them, and the brother-in-law decided that he knew how to fight monsters. First time playing D&D. He's like, no, we got to kill it right away. It doesn't matter what it is. He rolled a 1. He missed it. It walked away. He swung at it again. He missed it. And it got to the 3rd room, and it summoned all the guards. And then they just got rolled over by 10 kobolds. Yeah, and then I can tell you, my nephew wasn't a fan of my
That's
brother-in-law
amazing.
that day. Yeah, I've lost a couple groups because I get too anxious about it.
He rolled 2 1s.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. It was hilarious. He was so angry,
That's
and
so
I was just
insane.
having a great time.
You can't that's the best part about it is you can't.
You can't be mad. It's all random.
It's
Yep.
all random, exactly.
People will get mad anyway. But anyway.
But no, you're right, because the fact that you can just kind of choose the fact that they gave you even some semblance of choice of how to use things in your environment is pretty cool.
And the damage is actually the same way, speaking of the dice, because all the weapons do a floor to a ceiling, so it's not like you're doing constant damage. You could do well, you could do badly. It just all matters.
And then you
how it
also
goes.
get weapons with pluses on it. +1 daggers, +2 swords, stuff like that.
Yep.
+2 sets of armor. I think I've gotten up to +4 or 6 in that.
I think it's 7 or 6 is the highest. I think.
I can't
yeah.
remember anymore.
I
I think
don't
it was
know.
pretty high though.
Yeah.
Just some funny things since we're still talking about the gameplay. Some things that they had to make, some things they had to do to make it play on the Game Boy Advance, some things they had to take out of it. There is no choice as to the playable character. Instead,
go.
only a human male is playable, although his class can be chosen from the 3 available, fighter, wizard, or
Oh,
archer.
no boobies.
no
What's
movies.
the point?
After the completion of the game, a new class, elven fighter, becomes available.
Who? Let's stop right there and talk
Legolas.
about
Legolas.
whoever wants to be an elven fighter. Nobody.
I don't know, that'd be fun.
If I
You mean
recall-
elven archer?
If I recall, Josh played an elven archer who was a fighter. So
Oh no,
Well,
Josh played an elven archer.
My problem was
melee.
one, that was an option for the version, so it was not unheard of. 2,
stand by it.
well, I'm
defend your
going to,
position.
I'm going to half stand by. I'm going to have to defend myself because the first part, I don't think making an elven fighter range or whatever was dumb. I think the way I played it was dumb because instead of going after all the little small peons, since I'm supposed to be fast and light, I went after the big dudes
Yes.
every time, and all the tanks would go after the small peons.
Yes.
So
you
I was
mistook
just-
your
I was
small
just-
like character for a tank. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I was just being dumb. So that's why I'm like, I'm on the edge. I'm on the ledge there. I'm like 1 foot on, 1 foot off.
Fair enough.
Then, upon completion of the game, players cannot import a character to play through the story again. They must start a new game. So it seems like there's New Game Plus on the PS2, and you couldn't do that in PS1
Oh, man,
or
is
on
there?
Game Boy
we should
Advance.
probably play New
Sorry.
Game Plus then.
Let's be honest. we
There
don't
is
do
no
that.
co-op mode, which is not. You know what? There should have been a co-op mode. You have the
there's
link.
yeah,
link.
yeah.
Fuck you guys. Who? Why would they do that? The town of Baldur's Gate is much more interactive. The players are able to talk to NPCs, enter houses, and use weapons in the town, which you could not do in the PS2 version.
Yeah, but
and all the
Yeah, they
towns
keep you
you
lawful
weren't-
good. It's lame.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of a cool thing that they added to it. They changed because it was kind of lame that the only people you could talk to were in at least in
Or the
Baldur's Gate, it
NPCs
was
that
in
had
the
a quest
town.
for you.
Yeah, that's it.
You could go overworld, like you could walk outside the tavern, and it was just raining with people out there. Which, by the way, I thought was silly because the game opens up with you entering Baldur's Gate to an empty street, and then you get mugged because there's nobody around. And then the second you come conscious and you walk outside, it's still the middle of the night, but there's dozens of people walking around out there.
Where were they when you're getting mugged?
Yeah, what's
Not
that?
helping, that's for sure.
The neighborhood watch
That
here.
the fact, and also the fact that we'll kind of do this when we get into the story. One of the people that mugs you is like the second in command. He's the commander
Karn.
of all
That's his
the
Karn.
bad guys. He's not like the supreme leader, which you find out later is a.
He's the leader of the Thieves Guild.
He's
who
the leader of the
reports
Thieves
up
Guild,
to a
who
beholder.
That's
what
it. I was
is.
trying to think of
Yeah.
the monster, a beholder. Those things are fucking terrifying looking.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are. They did well. They did it really well in this game. I liked what they did. Yeah,
They're hard as hell.
it was hard.
No, it was
And
easy for
I don't even think I could like block.
Yeah, it was easy for you, wasn't it? It was
a
at least
little.
normal for us.
There are various new side quests in the Game Boy Advanced version. Players cannot jump. Recall potions,
That's disappointing.
Potions which allow the player to teleport back to town to sell wares, and then back to where they were in the dungeon, are not available.
Well, I'm out then.
The ability to save the game is present at all times through the pause menu. And
Well, that's what you get for having a single player game. This game, I feel like Dark Alliance excelled because it was a really great couch co-op.
it is.
Yeah, like single player is great and it's fun, and definitely easier because one of the things
It was
that-
meant to have a friend with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you have to fight for gold from each other, which is always fun. But single player, you get all the
You
gold,
have to
you
do
play
that in
it through. It's
Diablo
great.
too as well,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, that's true. But this one did really well with 2-player. And also, as a comment, jumping and spinning in circles is how you kill time. You remove that aspect from the game, half the game's gone.
When
I
you're
mean,
waiting
if
for
it's
health
a
to
single
regen.
player, though, it's like not. Yeah, I guess.
Well, you got to wait for health to regen. What do? Jump and spin circles.
And then the final thing that was different, at least according to Wikipedia, I know I'm such a professional researcher. The GBA version lacks the experience meter from the console version, so you would have to actually go in and check on your stats to see how much experience you had left until you could level.
That's not a big loss then.
Details.
Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of interesting that there was a GBA port of it, and it was not insanely different, but different enough that it was surprising.
Yeah, it's really weird they released it. It seems like not a Game Boy Advance type game.
No.
So before we move on to the story, any other comments on the gameplay or anything like that?
I don't know. Gameplay was pretty sturdy the whole time. They had
Yeah, for a PS2 top-down game, it actually played really well. It wasn't too clunky. It wasn't too bad.
No, it actually played really well. You could run away pretty easy. You could actually dodge ranged projectiles to a degree.
You walk
and, like,
away from them.
Yeah,
They
and
were
there was
good,
a lot
they were
of,
good at those enemies are good at leading you.
The
too.
sharpshooters, man.
Yeah.
They I noticed a number of times I'd be running and they would shoot exactly to where I was going, and thankfully they give you the projectiles move slow enough that you can see it and you can dart back if you're paying attention.
They
But,
all stack points in archery.
seriously.
And I'll tell you what though, as far as like, because I was always front line, they were really good on their animations because you had to like wait for them to wind up their attack and then you could block. Especially if you had like a 2-hand, you had to time the attacks better than just hold a shield up. Like you could actually watch them time the block. Block the attack and counter attack, and you actually really watch it. So the mechanics were pretty solid all the way through. The only thing that sucked is that they hit real hard. So you actually had to be good
on
at the
actual
game.
difficulties.
Yeah, they were actually you actually had to be good at the game. Really pay attention to. everybody's
Surprisingly
movement.
enough, though, even on easy, there were a couple moments where you had playing easy by yourself was fine. There were a couple moments where I had to actually run away because they would just swarm you so much. Especially like when you're swarmed on by a bunch of enemies all at once, and then there's also ranged enemies shooting you at the same time. Especially if they are poison ranged enemies with the poison darts.
They can block your escape by just surrounding you entirely.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why 2-player was fun too.
But you could
kind of
also
divvy
jump
it up.
over the small guys, especially if they were like little kobolds. You
you
could
just
jump
jump over
over them, which was kind of cool.
Not
which
the
is
advanced
weird
version,
for
though.
which is weird for a dwarf because that means that dwarf must have like a 5-foot vertical
He's Michael Jordan.
to be able to clear those guys. Like he must have.
He's got
some
ups.
Whoop, whoop.
So, in line with the story, I guess to kind of transition into the story, what I want to talk about quick beforehand is the graphics.
They were good.
They're good.
They were good.
They're
would
visually
say
appealing.
The weirdest thing about this game, and we're just going to address
the very first person you talk to.
the very first person you talk to, and we're going to address the elephants in the room. They spent an inordinate amount of time on boob jiggle in this game.
They did.
Just
Somebody had to develop
it's
it.
very strange.
Like, I don't know what hormones are in Baldur's Gate water, but they're huge.
And actually, speaking of just kind of like arts and aesthetics and stuff like that, though, the voice acting for her and in general in the game is
it's good.
really good.
Oh yeah.
If you decide to listen to it.
Especially,
I listened to it.
It's really good.
We didn't listen to it. I listened to it.
There's actually some pretty big actors in it too. So Aelith, the bartender, who's the girl who has those elephants. What a weird euphemism.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
I'm not going to use that anymore. I don't like that. Her name, the character's name is Aelith. It's voiced by Jennifer Hale, who's the voice of Cortana.
Oh, wow.
Really?
I'm pretty sure
That's
it
pretty
is.
cool.
I know.
I mean, I'm not questioning it. That's just really interesting.
No, I just want to double check to make sure
Whatever you
am
say is
not-
gospel, Josh.
I
Yeah,
know,
there
right?
you go. Whatever. I mean, all the voice actors, even like the minor roles, were actually all really good all the way through the entire game. There wasn't any cheesy bad guys or cheesy dialogue, and I did like that with the dialogue options.
Oh no! So she is the voice of Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite.
Oh well, that's significantly less impressive.
I liked Elizabeth. She was useful.
I'm
Unlike,
pretty sure.
Cortana.
yeah.
Cortana gave you information.
Who gives a
All
crap?
All right. But
I'm curious though. Like I need to double check with that. But yeah, I could have sworn she is the voice of Cortana. I'm gonna actually look it up right now because it's gonna bother me.
Okay.
No, not voice of Coraline.
Speaking of Cortana, we should probably play the Halo 2 games again and like actually finish those two-player things.
no, it wasn't Halo.
No, it was
It was Gears of War.
well, that too.
Yeah, I
I
was
was
wrong.
thinking Halo
Jen
2 as
Taylor
well.
is the
Oh,
voice
that's
of
true.
Cortana.
We should do that. Yeah.
Just to say we beat them and then never talked about it again.
Yeah, careful. You're letting everybody know that we have only made it to Halo 1 and throughout all this time.
Yeah, it's fine. No, Jen Taylor is the voice of Cortana, but Jennifer Hale has been in a lot of different things, like
I've heard her name before.
BioShock Infinite. There's also one of the ones that surprised me. Character named Jarek, who is a member of the Harpers. He's like he's like the thief. He's like the thief that's on the inside. That's part of the quote unquote good thieves guild, not the new murderous one. It's voiced by John Rhys Davies. Gimli.
Oh wow! Oh really?
Yeah,
I had.
I'm pretty sure he.
Why didn't he voice the human dwarf? the dwarf fighter.
Let me just.
I
Make
think it's
sure
just the
I'm
main
right with
character
that.
didn't say anything.
He's Sala in Indiana Jones. That's the big thing I know him from. I could have sworn John Rhys Davies is Gimli. I think so.
Again, what you say is gospel to us.
Exactly.
But the thing is, the internet's forever and nerds are angry.
there
So
you go, that's true.
yes, he is Gimli. I was right. John
Good.
Rhys
No hate
Davies
mail.
is the voice of he's not the voice. He is Gimli. He's Sala from Indiana Jones. He was also in some of the James Bond movie. He was in the James Bond movie. It's just crazy. Like this dude's been in so much, and does a voice in this game, which I think is kind of crazy,
That's cool. I always like connecting voice actors together like that.
right? And so I just think it's kind of crazy the talent they had on this game. And
yeah.
it shows. It's an early PS2 game. Like I said, it came out in 2001, so it's early in the PS2's lifespan.
And it works really well. Yeah.
Mhm. It still holds up. I mean, I
does.
beat it in like the 4 or 5. Granted, like we've been joking around, it was on easy, but that's the only reason I was able to beat it in like 5 days because
yeah.
it's not like a long game if you're able to just plow through it. It only takes about
No,
6-7 hours.
What takes it to be so long is the damage and the swarming.
Yes.
So you got to like pick a couple of them off, go back and heal, pick a couple more off, go heal. Mm-hmm. That's what takes forever in the game. But we were talking about the animations too and art and everything. And you can clearly see that they've got like one character structure, like a skeletal structure that they've applied to everybody. So they all move their hands in the same way and they
Yeah.
all like make the same motions.
They all look like they're related.
yeah.
The weirdest thing that I hate about their animations in it is when when the camera zooms in and you're seeing the face-to-face conversations with the NPCs. All of their hands
Oh,
just
they're
move
animated.
weird.
They just hover.
Their arms don't move at all, but their fingers look like they're just curling all the time. They'll randomly have like 2 fingers pop out and then curl back in, and another finger on the other hand
That's
pop
true.
out.
You see that?
Bad programming.
Terrible. It keeps it interesting, something to look at while they're talking to you.
Rather
or
than-
skipping through their
rather
text.
than boobs.
Oh, yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
That was so weird. Like I remember I turned it on. Had to clarify that. Turned the game on, and then that came up. I'm like, well, that's a howdy do. That's the first thing you see.
It's a game you got to make sure no one's around you when you're playing it.
I'm interested
right.
in this. Let's play.
You have my attention.
So yeah, so let's talk about the story. The storyline is it kind of there's a through line through there's 3 acts and there's a through line through all 3 acts, but there's a story arc for each individual act pretty much. The first one is all about the thieves guilds warring with each other, and you pretty much investigate the sewers so you get mugged in the beginning, and you're going after the thieves guild to get your stuff back and for vengeance.
Always
And
vengeance.
you meet Alith, the bartender, and she tells you, like, well, maybe you'd be able to get to them through the sewers, but, we have a rat problem, so we can't get to the sewers. You can get to the sewers through our basement.
Classic starting quest.
Right? Oh, it was when I was
none of
playing
it
it,
was
I'm like,
super
this
unique.
is so D&D.
Yeah, you go from rats straight to kobolds, straight to like an orc thing, and
It was like orcs
some
and goblins.
there's-
You get
there's-
bugbears
there's-
later
yeah.
on.
Yeah, bugbears, and then you got the classic
And then-
slimes.
And the lizards, yeah.
Yeah.
None of it was too groundbreaking as far as D&D goes. It was all
No.
within that realm.
No,
nothing
but the
crazy.
mechanics each monster applied was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, and so the storylines, I would say, of the individual 3 things weren't all that good. I actually think the third act had a really interesting story, how you, like, the main evil villain at the end of Act 3 is, I can't remember her name,
I barely remember either because they just kind of like mentioned it at
Was
the
it the
very, very
mountains?
end. No, the mountains was second.
Eldrith. Eldrith. She was a general who worked for Baldur's Gate, who worked within Baldur's Gate. Eldrith is her name. And she was the greatest general the city had seen. And when they were getting attacked by, I think, hordes of kobolds or something like that,
She wanted to go fight
she
him.
wanted to go fight them, and the city said no, and she defied them. But because of her hubris, all of her soldiers died. And when she came back, she was then cast out from the city, and pretty much died as an outcast. And so then swore vengeance to against Baldur's
See,
Gate.
her
which-
hate brought her back to life. I'm like, is that all it takes to come back?
That's
all
all
it
it is.
takes.
Yeah.
And her tower like exists in a dimension outside of their own type of thing. It's called the Onyx Tower, and you have to climb up the Onyx Tower. I really
Some
liked that
bitch.
character in general. I liked the idea of all that, but that section was obnoxious.
I just don't remember the end boss. Like she was such a
She was so
blip
forgettable.
at the very end.
Yeah.
yeah. She was really. She was just like, oh right, that's it. And
Yeah,
then you kill
going
her.
back to the gameplay, it was just like every boss in the acts is really hard leading up to that final boss. Like, all right, everyone prepare. This is gonna be rough, and you just crush your face in. It was over.
Yeah,
Especially because they give you a weapon 5 seconds beforehand. So there's a boss you fight before her, and he drops this thing called the Onyx Sword. And if you look at it, it's at that point in the game, it's not the best weapon in the game. Because I had better like bastard swords that you could like swing around.
but it clearly tells you with like flashing red lights, use this and hit her with it.
Yeah.
Well, at least not for me. The way I knew that you had to hit her with it is because I talked to an NPC outside of it before.
Yeah, exactly.
And he tells you, oh, maybe if you could use something that's made of her tower,
Yeah,
she
exactly.
could be
That's
defeated.
exactly what they say. And
And
it's like, oh, let's see. It has a
The
name.
Onyx Tower and the
Onyx.
Onyx
Onyx,
Sword. I
yeah.
think I get it. That was forged within the tower.
It takes off like a fifth of her hit life with every hit. It's just a joke.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was super easy.
So it doesn't matter how you got to the end, you're gonna win.
Which is kind of lame if you think about it. Like, you want your final boss to really be a challenge of everything that you've learned so far in the game. Admittedly, in RPGs, there's not a lot of mechanics learning as the game goes on. It's more just experience.
Yeah, I'd like to rage a little bit in my final bosses though.
Go for it.
However,
No, I'm
this
just saying,
is-
like, if it's a final
okay.
boss,
Yeah.
I'd like to rage at it a little bit to make
Do
it
you,
hard.
do you remember? So, Mike and I were roommates for at least 2 years,
You
right?
can talk about Spyro the Dragon.
No, I was going
Okay.
to talk about Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yes.
Both him and I played it around the same time. And holy fuck, the final boss of that game. Have you ever played Metal Gear Solid 1, Jamie?
no. I
So-
did a
We're
demo version for
We're gonna
PS1.
blow your mind hole now.
So, so the final boss of that game, you fight Metal Gear, and then you fight. I think his name's Liquid Snake. I
Yeah.
think it's the final.
He's your half brother.
You know what?
Father, son's second roommate, something like that.
I never played the game, but I remember watching you guys beat it. You guys come down to like a fisticuff at the end.
yes,
Yeah.
fuck that.
Yeah.
That was bullshit. That was so
It's a
unnecessarily
PlayStation
difficult.
game with not great mechanics and gameplay because it's a PlayStation game. It's not quite there yet.
I actually think that game holds up really
It was
well.
very good, but for the time, it's like you want me to react how the game's not ready for this, and it wants you to fist fight him.
I don't even think it's that I have an issue with. I think the fight with the Metal Gear, the giant mech suit, was in general kind of bullshit. But then
it's you against a giant machine. What are you gonna do?
That's true.
And I don't even remember how I
You're
beat
gonna
it.
stealth around it.
You're gonna stealth around it and by blind
But
luck
then the
win.
final fight with Liquid Snake is bullshit because I don't mind having the fisticuff fight thing, and it's very 80s movie action like cliche, and I love that. I have no issue with that. But it takes so long to kill him. You spend so long punching him in the face, and when he knocks down, you literally have to cheese the boss, because you have to pretty much punch him. You have to get him in the center, punch, do your 3 attack, punch kick, run around behind him, so that way he doesn't. So that way when he gets up, he can't block you because he's now behind you.
Well, he'll get up, have an invulnerability moment, and like uppercut you.
Yeah,
and so you got to just avoid that and then go.
Well,
around.
if you run around before that and his back's to you, then you can punch kick before he does anything, and then you have to run around the other side. So you're just cheesing the final boss. It's not an actual show of skill. It's more just how long will it take for this to go on?
Yeah, if you try and like straight up fight him
for fucking ever.
If you try and straight up fight him with like blocks and dodges, he'll just whoop your ass.
It's so annoying. I mean, unless if you're really good at it, maybe, but unless you want to spend literally hours upon hours.
It took us like an hour and a half just for that one fight.
And that was with cheesing it.
Yeah.
Once we knew how to cheese it. So imagine someone who's never played before having to master that. Fuck that fight. I love that game, but fuck that fight.
But yeah, real quick about Spyro the Dragon, because I'd never actually beaten Spyro the Dragon in my younger years. I finally got it when we lived with Justin, and I raged so hard.
The show.
I raged so hard at that game. People in the room were like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm just trying to beat this goddamn fucking game, and I'll be happy as hell."
Trying to beat this G-rated children's game.
That's right.
I think it's weird that you're playing a good game when you actually keep going after you're livid. Because if a game's bad and you get mad at it and you turn it off after 1 or 2 failed attempts,
it's bad mechanics, not me.
It's not even necessarily that. Maybe it could just be you, but maybe you're. But
it's
you're
never
also,
me. I'm perfect.
Yeah. It's more you showing that you don't enjoy this game versus when you were playing Spyro, when we were playing Metal Gear Solid. It very much showed like we kept getting so angry, but we would not want to put the game down because we wanted to beat it. That means we really liked that game, despite the flaws that each one had.
Yeah.
For PlayStation 1. Like right now, I'm playing through. Actually, when was this episode going to come out? I don't care if it's before or after. One of the other games that either I've already talked about, because I don't know when it's going to be released upon this recording. Either I've already talked about it for the summer of PS2 or I'm going to, is Devil May Cry.
Yes, that was mine. That was my version.
And I'm playing through that right now. And I'm awful at it. And I rage quit after 1 or 2 failed attempts. But I'm still going to keep pushing through it. I'm barely anyways into it. And now that I'm every time I rage quit and I come back, I have a little bit better mechanics understood. So it's not awful.
No, that game is fantastic.
That's what games are, though, is you get better at them as you play them. And then in the final boss, it's supposed to be a culmination of that. And as we're just talking about, Baldur's Gate does not do that.
It does not do that at all. And I would argue Metal Gear Solid doesn't do it. Actually, you know what? No, I take
the
that
Metal
back.
Gear fight
Metal
is,
Gear fight does.
But the other one's not.
The other one's not. So yeah, the story, like we said, it's a through line between those 3 different acts. The second act isn't all that interesting.
Yeah, it's not that great. It's like a nice drag at the top.
You go through a
some
dwarven
towers.
mine, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then once you get out of the mine, you have to go through this forest. Essentially, once you complete the first act, you defeat the Thieves Guild, and then you go fight the Beholder, who's controlling the Thieves Guild. He basically alludes that there's more people out there trying to take down Baldur's Gate, and then you see on a map the locations of the other 2, and it's in the mountains, which I forget the name of the mountains. I might want to try to find that real quick.
I feel like the storyline's a little bit of a cop-out, in my opinion, just because they use portals just to make everything different. Like, they could have just said, you travel there, but they're like, oh, no, you go portal.
Well, that's a magical, mystical thing.
Yeah, I know it's a magical, mystical. It seems kind of cheap, I guess, to me.
Well, you have to remember, too, that there's 3 acts. You kill the baddie at the end, the general, but the storyline's incomplete because it goes right into Baldur's Gate 2.
It's an
incomplete story. Yeah, exactly.
So there's a cliffhanger ending, like you were saying.
You kill the baddie, but the
Spoiler
baddie's already
alert
being
for those who have
controlled.
not played this. You find out the guy who helps you get to Eldrith's tower, the Onyx Tower,
the bad guy.
He's working for somebody.
Yeah.
And then when you portal out of that, you end up in some dark forest with these evil looming figures just kind of creeping out over
they
you.
kind of
I
come
don't
out of the
even know.
forest, and then the credits roll.
Yeah, and we'll tell you how Baldur's Gate 2 ends when it's not $150 to buy.
Yeah, once we all win the lottery.
Let me see. You know what? I'm curious. What is the current price according to price charting for that game? Because
Baldur's Gate 2?
For Baldur's Gate 2, yeah.
I just looked. It's $150 and or $80 depending on what condition it's in.
Yeah.
Really?
As long as
Yeah.
it runs. It's still pretty pricey though, because it was a rare game. I
For a-
didn't
for
even
a-
know they had a second one
for a
until we looked it up.
2004 game or whatever it came
Yeah.
out. It's more than the price of a normal
Well,
game.
I'm sure it's selling for that on eBay because I'm seeing a complete price on eBay for $19 right now for Baldur's Gate 2.
Buy it now. We'll do a podcast on it.
Done.
And then as soon as you go to it, it's still cheaper than $150. It's $65 plus $6 shipping.
we looked that price up immediately after we beat the first one.
Yeah, we're like, holy crap,
4 or
it's a
5 years
cliffhanger?
ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, we'll play. And then they just announced pretty recently a third one. So we're like, all right, well, now we got to find a cheap number 2 to buy.
Never
so we
did.
can,
You can buy it loose for like
oh, lovely.
$30.
Does the disc run?
According to this, it's $31.21 loose, $39.95 complete. But I don't think that's selling anywhere.
Yeah, find some sources for that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, one of my most frustrating moments with buying a loose sleeve game is I played Maximo 1 for the PS2.
Oh, yeah?
Game was amazing, fantastic. Got all the way to the end, beat the boss, had a cinematic go through. My game crashed. We didn't ever complete the cinematic. I cleaned it no matter what. Would never finish cinematic. Never saw the end of it. And this was like prior to like YouTube, way back in early 2000s. So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. I beat the game. I only recently found out a year or two ago that there was a cinematic that led to the real final boss that I
Wow,
never
so you never
actually
actually finished the
finished
game.
it. I was like, no. I finished it. I finished as much as I could.
But yeah, Josh, here's on Amazon. $155, $85, or you can get the really sort of cheap
Why
one.
are you searching Amazon for?
I always search Amazon.
I always cheap.
Always cheap.
I'm always cheap.
Literally, I'm looking at Baldur's Gate 2 Dark Alliance right now for the original Xbox for $15 plus $3.
Well, there's your
$4 for
problem.
shipping.
That's Xbox. We're on PS2.
Oh my god, beggars can't
The
be
summer.
choosers, bitches.
Of PlayStation.
Okay,
PlayStation.
found one for $20 with.
Go ahead, buy it. I'll give you money right now.
I don't have money for it right now.
Oh no.
I'm
Oh
poor.
no. Quick,
35. Yeah, literally. Look
Subscribe
at
to
this.
us so we can buy Dark Alliance 2 and do a podcast on it.
You can go to eBay and find it for stupid cheap.
I don't trust eBay. It's only been around for 15 years. I don't trust it.
Yeah, it's
But
deteriorated.
yeah. So like you're saying, the storyline is kind of overall underwhelming, but it does leave on a cliffhanger. I will say that the storyline feels very D&D, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It feels like there's a lot of interconnecting storylines through NPCs and later events in the game, and that's exactly how D&D is. In D&D, you're supposed to listen to every NPC, kind of have a general idea of what they're saying, so when...
No wonder we're bad at D&D.
yeah, exactly. You don't listen to me when I do the NPCs.
No. And
Right.
even in dungeons too, like there's a lot of stuff. I remember we would complete a dungeon and you're like, yeah, there's like 5 storylines in this dungeon and you didn't do any of them.
Well, I like
pass through.
I like listing off the things you've missed, like the secret rooms and the items and the people. But that's always fun. But with this one, I can tell you that even though the overall story of Dark Alliance isn't fantastic, I mean, it's all right. It's pretty good. The personal NPC stories are good because in each area, each act, there's a slew of either side quests or main quests, and they're pretty detailed. If you actually listen to them and talk them through, they give you all the detailed, more information than you need to complete them. And the voice acting's good, and the personal stories are good, and that's kind of really where it engages you. It's just one-off stories. Why am I bothering with a side quest? Oh, because of this. It's actually important.
They actually have good characters in it.
Yeah.
And each one is, I did a lot of them in the first zone, but there's one where a woman is trying to find something in the crypts. I forget what exactly
She's trying to find her boyfriend, who's part of the old Thieves Guild.
One is the boyfriend who you find out later is that's actually a perfect example. That's not the one I was thinking of, but a woman's trying to find her boyfriend who's part of the Thieves Guild, and when you
and
go
she's deeply actually concerned about him, and then they talk about how he was offered a lump sum of money to do this one simple task so they could finally get out of it. And then you end up following the lead down, and it's actually part of the main quest. You find out that he's got this orb that he unveils, and it turns him into like a statue, or it turns into like the undead. It kills him.
turns him
And
into
it starts
the undead.
like raising all these
It
undead in the
raises all
church.
the
And it
undead.
actually leads into it real good if you get involved in what she's saying and then get to that part in the game. It's like, oh, well, this is an actual legitimately tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. I think like I think it describes the story perfectly. The overall story's fine. It's not bad. It's not great. But the individual character stories, very simple. They're very short. You just have a very quick character arc, like we just described with that one. But it makes you feel for the person because it seems relatable. It seems like these are real people, even though very clearly the boobs are looking very strange on half of these female models. What?
I have nothing to add to that. You're correct.
It's still like it. Why add so much detail to that? It's almost whatever.
They played to their audience. They knew who was buying this game.
Oh yeah, especially when I did my Metal Gear Solid episode. Me and my friend Pete were joking around that there's a shot in Metal Gear Solid 1 where the camera just is fixated on Meryl's ass.
They're really all about that in that game.
Yeah, and it just lingers on it. And
they do it in all 4 of them.
It's really weird. I haven't played all 4 yet. I actually need to play the second one and the third one. All of them. I have to play all of them. I've only ever really played the first one.
Yeah, but yeah, they do it in every single one of them. They're just like, we know who's buying this game. Here's some TNA.
So yeah, do you guys have anything left to say on the story or the art or just some kind of overall things, and then we can go into final impressions. Like, do you think this game still holds up? But anything to say on that before then?
Yeah, I pretty much covered most of it. I think, like I said, I think the storylines. It's D. If you play D&D, you kind of follow the storyline. You know it.
It's something to move you forward.
Yeah.
That's it. Mm-hmm. I'll say though, this is an excellent in an era where there's not that many like couch co-ops anymore. This is a great 2-player game. This is fantastic. Just sit down and spend an afternoon. It'll take you a couple sessions to play through. Especially if you're doing 2-player or normal, then it's just like
what are you implying, Jamie?
I'm saying like you're fantastic, but I'm saying that easy mode you can just go ahead and skip that, unless you're on Daddy Can I Play mode. But it's a good couch co-op. That's it. Just grab a buddy, sit down, play it through. It'll take you a couple times.
Make a friend.
It's actually a fantastic way to spend an afternoon just playing it if you actually want to share the same screen, be in the same physical place.
And watching you guys play, the 2-screen thing wasn't that intrusive. Like,
no, they did pretty well with it.
Sometimes when you have 2 players sharing the same screen, it can be kind of wonky, but they actually did a really good job with it.
They did. It's not split screen. So for people who haven't touched yet, it's not split screen. It's all on the same large screen so everybody can see everything. You're kind of kept within a camera constraint where if you guys start walking away from each other, you will be eventually stopped. It'll zoom out.
X-Men Legends, same way.
It'll stop you at a certain point.
And speaking of couch co-op, they made an X-Men Legends 3 that came out for the Switch.
Did, yeah.
Haven't tried it yet, but I'll need to.
It better be the exact same way that all the others are. If it changes, I don't want it.
That's right.
Well, I'll have to get some feedback on that. So,
I don't know the storyline.
So would you say that's your final impressions of it? It still holds up, and it.
Oh, absolutely,
absolutely. Yeah. We could. I mean, we just tested it for a little bit just to remind ourselves, and we could play it through again.
You have to not really care about graphics too much because it's the PS2, and
even the graphics
still really
look that
good.
bad.
They hold up, but if you're like a graphics who are like, oh, I need to be able to see everything, you're not. It just it is what it is.
They're going to come up to you and they're going to hit you, and you're going to have a general idea.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, you have to really pay attention to the character models attacking you because they do have like a little bit of a charge up with your block timing, and it's hard. It's not easy to just like block if you're using not a shield, but it holds up graphically. The character models actually do look really good, even though their skeletal animation is pretty predictable and recycled. But it looks good. The game flows easy. The camera is controllable by either player, so you guys can rotate it and it's no problem.
Yeah, I'd play it again, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good place to end it then. It still holds up. So if you have not tried Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, definitely go check it out. It's for a bunch of stuff, including, like we mentioned, the Game Boy Advance. I wouldn't try that version, though. So yeah, Jamie, Micah, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have anything you want to plug at all?
Nope.
No, not at all.
They're fair enough.
Not at all.
As usual, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at StillLoadingPod on all of them. You can also email me, stillloadingcontact@gmail.com. If you want to support the show, you can check out either other than just listening, you can check out my Patreon, patreon.com/stillloadingpod. Even just $1 a month will help the show grow. And you can also check out, you can also rate and review the show on iTunes or whatever podcast app you use. And I think that should be it.
I'll tell you what, if anybody wants to have Koval review another 2-player game, I'm willing to carry Micah through anything that's 2-player. So
Anything 2-player. I love getting carried.
Feel free to let us know. We'll drag our butts through it.
I'm picturing this now. You're going to get married one day, Micah, and it's not going to be your wife or it's going to be Jamie walking you through.
Yeah, I'll carry him down.
We've already
carrying
decided.
you through the door. Okay. Because you're just so used to it now.
Absolutely. His shoulders are broad.
And yeah, check out the Podbeard Network, the podcast network I'm a part of, and podbeardnetwork.com, and that should do it. So, Jamie, Micah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I will see you all next time.